Ladies and gentlemen, for years and years and years, we've always heard, put your money where your mouth is. So you know what? This is exactly what our next speaker is going to be telling us about. Where exactly would you be putting your money in the future? So ladies and gentlemen, time to create, time to invent your future and know where your money goes. So please welcome on stage Managing Director, Sequoia Capital, Abhay Pandey. Welcome, Abhay.
Before I begin, statutory warning. This presentation does not include any words like brand, marketing, advertising, and therefore, any of you not understanding or appreciating this presentation is not my responsibility. The first topic given to me before I chose onto this topic was where will the future investments go? And my first reaction to that question was, I wish I knew. But after thinking about it a little bit more, the answer was blindingly obvious. The future investments will go in the direction of smart ideas. Smart ideas that youngsters sitting at the back of the room, smart professionals and entrepreneurs sitting in the front of this room, and millions of people outside are thinking about, are dreaming of today. Capital will just follow these ideas to make sure that these ideas are converted into reality. And therefore, all of us here and other people around the world have a role in shaping the future of tomorrow. But before we dive into trying and seeing what's coming tomorrow, I want to take you back into history of the last century, more or less, to see what's been happening there. And the important thing I wanted to do there was to look at what have been some of the top ideas. Okay, technical problems. Thank you. What have been the top ideas by decade? Now, we all know that in a particular decade, several new ideas come into being and are spoken about, are popular, and so on. But if you go back to the 30s and 40s and look at what were the most popular ideas then, they were in the area of chemicals. For the first time, the world spoke about ethanol, sodium hydroxide, polymers, etc. The 50s and 60s were about electronics. Transistors, LEDs, circuit boards, miniaturization, lasers were the terms that came into being. The 70s and 80s were about life sciences. For the first time, the world was talking about ideas like DNA sequencing, gene encoding, MABs, and so on. But after that, if you look at starting the 1990s, even the late 80s onwards until now, most of what's been going on has been around computers and communication. Our world has been dominated by the intranet, the internet, VoIP, messaging, and so on and so forth. And these are all the terms that have come into being in the recent past. What's going to come up next? That's a question mark. While we'll try and take a look at what is possible, there are no clear answers. But what's very, very clear is the pace of change is accelerating. Even within the world of computers and communication, if you look at this picture from 1959, some of you may have seen it. This is a 5 megabyte hard drive being shipped by IBM. Moving forward, in less than 30 to 40 years, we had a very, very powerful laptop. And before the world could understand what was going on, there was iPhone. What is going on here? Almost after the invention of the PC, which happened in 1975, and it took man a long, long time to come to the PC, almost systematically, every 10 years, there has been a black swan event. An event the world did not expect, but it happened and changed the lives around us. 1985 was the router. 1995 was the internet. 2005 was the iPhone. And we are all waiting for the next black swan event. We don't know what it is, but we know two things. One, that it's around the corner. And secondly, that the next black swan event will not have to wait for another 10 years. In fact, if you think about my world, which is the venture capital investing world, it's more or less followed the sequence of events around these significant developments. The industry was born around the late 60s and then followed computing and computing power and communications power around, largely focused in the US market because that's where all the developments were going on. And then over time, as millions of and billions of interconnected devices have come all over China and India, this industry has moved into China and India and is beginning to see early success. A small advertisement for my firm at the bottom, and the history is not very different from what's been happening in this. If I look at Sequoia Capital, founded in 1972 in Silicon Valley, and if you look at the major names that we've been involved with and the timing of each of these, it follows the same set of events. Apple Computers in 1978, Cisco and Oracle in the late 80s and early 90s, Google and Yahoo in the late 90s, YouTube, LinkedIn in the early 2000s, and more recently, Airbnb, Dropbox, and WhatsApp. So what's the future going to look like? In my opinion, there are two sets of people who are going to define what the future is going to look like. Number one are the mavericks. The mavericks are the crazy people, and I hope there are some or there's one sitting in this room. These are the people who think of crazy ideas that the world pretty much dismisses. But then through their energy, their passion, their relentless aggression, keep pursuing these ideas and convince those around them that these ideas make sense. And over time, these ideas are converted into reality and the future. And second, not crazy, but very smart people, very smart individuals who think about the so-called and often misused word disruptive idea to come up with something which helps us do things better than what we did yesterday. And these two sets of people will define what are the ideas that we are going to implement and execute to create the future of tomorrow. And people like us, venture capitalists, will simply follow these two sets of smart people in helping them create the tomorrow. Some of you may have seen this picture. It's a picture from about 3 weeks ago in Silicon Valley at a dinner event. The two gentlemen on this slide are, on the left is Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, and Elon Musk, who most of you should know. And the topic that they're discussing, which is very interesting, the topic is, how can man possibly colonize Mars? Now, this is the kind of crazy idea that these people are thinking of. It just seems ridiculous for the time being, but is it possible that these two gentlemen go behind the idea, put some money behind it, start getting some facts, and in 2 or 3 decades, we see the reality of something like this happen? So that's one set of people. How do we try and predict what the future is likely to look like? I'll take the example of 2 well-respected organizations, one a super large and very well-known one, and the second one which is less known but well-regarded, Google and the Y Combinator. And let's look at what they are doing to give us a sense of what the near future is likely to look like. And we're not talking about the distant future here. We all know about the reorganization of Google, which recently happened to be renamed Alphabet. And the prime driver of that was to make sure that their shareholders understand the difference between the operating part of the business, which is Google and YouTube, versus the investment part of the business. And it's the investment part of the business which I wanted to focus on. If you look at the different parts of the investment business, they tell you where Google is spending energy. None of these businesses are profitable today, but these are serious investments for the future. Calico is investing into anti-aging research. Nest is into homes connected to the internet. Fiber is working on much more rapid access to the internet. Then there's Google Capital and Google Ventures, which is not investing in projects within Google, but investing in projects outside of Google to support those ideas to make them reality. And then finally, and most importantly, is Google X, right at the bottom. And Google X is a smart lab within Google which works on futuristic projects, crazy ideas again, some of them. And as some of these ideas start taking shape, they're spun out into independent divisions within Google to work further on, or they're scrapped and they move on to the next ideas. A deeper look into what's happening at Google X. So all of you should be knowing about the Google Glass project, which is going slow or sideways for the time being. The self-driving car, drones for delivery, the contact lenses for tracking diabetes, nanoparticles for early detection of cancer. Then there are other projects like Project Balloon that you might have heard of about enabling internet access in remote areas, Project Spoon for Alzheimer's, projects on green energy, projects on neural networks. So there's a wide range of topics on which Google is doing serious research. And each of these are likely to define where more investments are likely to go and what the future is likely to look like. Moving on to the Y Combinator. It's a small seed fund in Silicon Valley which focuses on future investments and very early stage investments. If you look at what the Y Combinator was doing in 2012, and I just wanted to go back into the future, into history to link it to what's going on today, 80% of the ideas funded by the Y Combinator in 2012 were consumer internet ideas. And if you look at what's happened in the last 3 years, that's exactly what the venture capital world and the growth equity world has done, which is invested in consumer internet ideas. But we can't continue to invest in the 6th dating app, the 11th food delivery company, and so on. So the world has to change. If you look at the complexion of Y Combinator today, the largest areas are dominated by enterprise tech, back again in fashion, health tech and biotech, fintech, and then there are other areas like IoT, robotics, and so on. I want to spend a minute on each of these ideas just to give you a flavor of what's the next level detail in each of these areas, because it's important to understand where the future is likely to lie. On the enterprise tech side, the single biggest idea has been trying to move a lot of sales and market cap which exists in the traditional software on-premise companies onto the cloud. The kind of businesses which we call SaaS, software as a service. In the last few years, about $100 to $150 billion of market cap has been moved already to the SaaS companies. And this has created some very good companies like Salesforce and ServiceNow, but there's another $800, $900 billion to go. And I'm sure some part of this will move to the cloud, and that will be a big theme for the next few years. Genomics has been a big area of both research and investment in the recent past. With the cost of sequencing the human genome coming down significantly, the value of this has certainly increased. If you look at what's the fundamental premise behind this, if you look at large pharma, they spend billions of dollars and multiple years in doing fundamental research on finding the next drug. But several drugs reach the last stage and in the clinical trials do not work on a certain section of population. And therefore, the drugs cannot be approved for usage by the entire population because it did not work on some people. Now, they did not work on certain people because those people's genetic disposition wasn't agreeing with the drug. So instead of saying this drug doesn't work, wouldn't it be better if we say, hey, this drug works for this set of people and doesn't work for this set of people? And thereby, if you extend this logic, you could get to a stage where you could say, hey, this drug works only for this person, which is the area which the US is working on. It's beginning to take shape around the world, which is saying, hey, can we get to precision medicine? It will not get to each individual, but can it get to a certain small set of people, saying for this community, this type of people, people with these genomic sequences, these characteristics, these are the drugs which are approved for them. If you extend the logic, why should all of us have the same food recommendations? We should eat different kinds of food based on our genetic disposition. The exercise that we do, why should be same for everyone? Running could be good for one person, swimming could be good for another person, and hopefully there's some people who need no exercise. Now, if you start thinking about the word disruption and how the healthcare tech companies are disrupting the human body, they're taking each part of the human body very systematically, from the kidney to the liver to the brain to the blood to the immune system and so on. And there are startups going after each of these. And there's venture capital and smart money which is chasing each of these ideas and saying, how can we back these ideas into reality for future? I'm glad this is just the top half of the body. Otherwise, there'll be many more companies that you'll see. We saw a glimpse or a different version of this slide earlier. This is the website of homepage of HSBC. And as you can see, innovators have gone after every function that HSBC does and made sure that they're attacking each of these functions very, very systematically. And therefore, the big banks should be worried. They should be worried also because the phone is beginning to take over some of the roles of a branch of a bank. The statistics from Bank of America, 20% decline in the number of branches they've had over the last 5 years. In addition to this, there are many other areas where lots of work is going on: robotics, wearables, 3D printing, IoT. We can keep going on, and each of these areas is as fascinating. You can take the home and say, what are the startups that are working on the bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, security, roof, and so on. So again, this is a long list, and we can have a discussion. This is all out there on the net, and a lot has been written about them. I wanted to come back and summarize that the future that we're going to have is going to be decided by people sitting in this room, people sitting in this room, people sitting in different parts of the world who are thinking about the next smart idea, people sitting in Silicon Valley, in Boston, in Shanghai, in Beijing, in Koramangala, in Powai, in Gurgaon, and so on. And each of these people will come up with ideas that will be backed if they are sensible ideas. Coming back, what does it mean for all of us? The world is changing very rapidly, and if we are not changing along with it, we are not going to exist. And this is not just for companies, it's for individuals, it's for managers. If you're a senior manager, you've got someone who's pushing you and who's forcing you to change your behavior, the way you take care of your job. You are forced to get onto Twitter, start using it, start getting onto more digital marketing and so on. A great example of this, of people who haven't changed, and we've seen different slices of this data even earlier today, being considered in the Dow Jones 30 is considered as almost a privilege in the United States, and this is a snapshot of what it looked like in 1960. Almost every company that got onto this list would want to stay on this list forever because it's a badge of honor. Today, this is what the list looks like. If you were to look at what's happening and the rate of change, the Fortune 1000 is a better way of looking at the same data. Between 1973 to 1983, there were 35% new companies that entered the Fortune 1000. In the next decade, there were more companies. Next decade, more companies. Next decade, more companies. So the rate of change, the rate of the old being displaced by the new is changing, is increasing. And this is happening across sectors. A big company thinks that another big company is its competition and always keeps watching it and is keeping an eye on that. And that's because they believe that number one will not be displaced by number two because on the weighing scale, you've got greater power. What they're not watching out for is the smaller company which, because of its agility, innovation, and so on, moves the fulcrum and thereby getting a lot more leverage. And there are several examples of this. What are the implications? If you are a small company, understand that you have leverage. If you're a large company, watch out for the small company that is likely to come and disrupt you. For example, when YouTube was acquired by Google for $1.8 billion, it was an 18-month-old company. Many people thought it was crazy. Today, any calculation on the value of YouTube will justify this. Similarly, the $1 billion valuation of Instagram paid by Facebook a few years back looked crazy. Today, the numbers of Instagram will well justify the valuation and beyond. Many people have argued with us on why WhatsApp was sold for $19 billion. Was it worth $19 billion and so on? I think over time, with a Facebook market cap in the $250 billion range, it's not hard to say why that's more than justified. Coming back to what it means for us, I think I'll run through these slides. What it means is, from each organization's point of view, you need to focus on innovation, on change. Change is not a department. Change is not a function. Change is not a special task force. Change has to be ingrained in all individuals and across the organization. And that is because if you do not do this, it will just be a fad. In a company like Google, even the legal department prides itself in the fact that we are at the cutting edge of doing things differently. And this is for as cut and dry profession as legal. Look at this list quickly and ask yourself the question, are we doing some of these things all the time? Are we asking ourselves all the questions that how do we stack up on these parameters? I quickly wanted to give examples of a few companies, and this is again companies that we've been involved with over the last few years, to talk about what they have done differently and what's the quick insight that they've got. Jaideep, who started Fasos as a quick service restaurant, when that was hot, very quickly realized that a large percentage of his orders were coming on the phone or on the mobile device, and not many people were coming to the storefront. And then said, why am I putting these hundreds of storefronts in Bombay and Pune and Bangalore? I just need a central kitchen. I need a very nice app. And then I can deliver food through the food ordered via the app to the customer's home or office, and therefore completely transformed the company. So he's taken notice of what's happening around him, has quickly transformed the company, and the company is a lot more attractive and doing a lot better than what it was 2 years back. Dipinder started Zomato as a discovery platform for restaurants in India. Very quickly realized the Indian market for discovery of restaurants is not super large, and therefore said, hey, why can't I be a discovery platform for restaurants around the world? That was pivot one, expanding the market size. Again, very quickly he realized that the number of startups that are emerging that are beginning to deliver food to your house, and these are likely to be disruptors for him, because if they start delivering food to the house of the consumer, they are going to own the relationship. And therefore, Dipinder expanded his business from discovery for India and outside India to discovery and delivery in India and outside India. And finally, Sam Santosh, who was in the business of data services and IT services in his past life, realized the value of genomic data. He heard about it being spoken in the United States, lots of valuable companies like Foundation Medicine, 23andMe being created with billions of dollars of value. Realized that the Indian genetic data has the maximum diversity compared to anywhere else in the world. So why would we not become the front runners in terms of calculating, collecting and evaluating and analyzing genomic data? And he's done that and has very quickly positioned himself as the leading genomics platform out of India. So in summary, what I'm saying overall is there are a lot of smart individuals all around us who are thinking about the future of tomorrow. And in summary, I'm urging all of you to join this entrepreneurial ecosystem, either as entrepreneurs or people who are supporting this ecosystem in different capacities, as advisors, as employees, as people who are funding them, or people who are supporting them as business partners, and so on and so forth. Now, if my advice is not good enough, I'm taking support from one of the most respected entrepreneurs of our time in giving the same advice. And if Mr. Page has finally convinced you to join and help the entrepreneurial ecosystem, here are some easy tips of what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. Thank you.